It's time! It's time! It's
Hypertime to podcast.
What is up, everyone? This is Josh Miller, welcoming you back to another episode of Hypertime to Podcast. And I'm not alone, as usual. I am with my co-host, Alan Muir. Alan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I bought more comics that I don't have time to read because I'm spinning so many plates, running VGU, playing playing LB the show over and over again, expecting a different result, which is the literal definition of going insane. So yeah, I'm here going insane. I'm
Yeah,
the
I think
Podfather.
I think everyone's kind of going insane these days, especially after what happened yesterday.
Yeah,
I mean, I hate to bring it up because by the time this posts, it's going to be like a month afterwards. But the day we're recording this is the day after we found out the bad news of Chadwick Boseman, the lead actor who played Black Panther in the movies, died of cancer. And so I think the general mood all around is pretty down. Figure we might as well bring this up. But yeah, he was a huge inspiration for a lot of people of color who did not really have a character like that to look up to. And so it's an incredibly sad day that someone who, by all accounts, was a very amazing person, had a good head on his shoulders, and was very kind to everyone around. And he's gone way too early. He was what, 43?
yeah.
Yeah.
Someone shared a video of him talking about like visiting terminally ill kid, like
Oh, the two kids
children.
with cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And how like for a moment it just like overtakes him and he tears up.
Yeah, that was rough.
And like Angela Bassett sharing like the story of how they met like before Black Panther, how they went to the same alma mater, or they had the same alma mater. And he was her I think liaison, or like person to help get her around the place. And in the Arcane Slack chat, Matt, I think it was Matt who said it.
I think so.
That what was the exact wording? Because I don't want to.
Yeah, let me pull it up here. Oh, yeah. So he had seen like a caption about it and just says, "Our little black boys lost a superhero today."
Yeah, and when in fact he was like from 2016 on he was getting treatments, doing movies, doing all this stuff.
And people were mocking him during that time because of like all the weight loss and everything he was having because of the cancer.
Yeah,
But
everyone thought he was either like, because I remember the tabloids were going heavy in on it, and
he stayed silent the entire time. Nobody knew.
he left the earth, or he left everyone in the privacy of his home with his family, which is how everyone should go.
Mm-hmm. Long live the king. And so from that somber note, let's go into today's topic, where we will be discussing All-Star Comics number 3, which was I guess you could say, invention of the super team in a way. Just this book is incredibly important to what comics would become later on, not just because of
The
the fact
characters
that
in it,
do what?
the characters that were in it,
Yeah, the characters that were
And
in
that-
it.
and that like what they would go on to inspire later on, like 20 years later, or 15, 20 years later.
Yeah, like they basically inspired the idea of a team book. So without them, we don't have the X-Men, we don't have Justice League, we don't have, Teen Titans or Avengers or anything like that. Like this all started with this issue. Was a bit of a different form than what Team Comics would be later on, but this is the beginning. This is how that all started. And not only was it the start of a team book, it kind of was the first like a big realization that all these characters in comics did exist in the same world. Like there had been crossovers beforehand, but no comic like really showcased the idea that like, oh, hey, more than these two superheroes live in the same world. They all would typically were seen on different planets, basically different universes where they would never meet up. And All Star Comics 3 changed that as well, almost like on a monthly basis. So, like, this book is incredibly important for where comics would go.
Yeah, I mean, and like this is more of it's more of a innovator than with Superman and Batman, like with their debuts and their characters. It got better and better as things went on. And I'm not trying to knock the JSA. They were the same thing. They were over and over, which is the basically like a way to look back at the greatest quote the greatest generation,
Mm-hmm.
like the World War II era of hardworking men and women.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes the JSA comes up, the term golden age does as well, because they are kind of what people see as like the definition of that era.
And there's a very good graphic novel by James Robinson called Golden Age.
Mm-hmm. And so before we get into kind of like how this all came about, Alan, do you kind of want to go into your interest in the Justice Society? Because I know you're a much bigger fan than I am.
Yeah, so my have you heard of iFanboy?
Yeah.
So when I was about like right when I was getting into comics, I started listening to their podcast and watching their video shows that they would do, like their
Mm-hmm.
topical shows. And I'm gonna get to a certain point where it goes back for 20 years, but they would constantly talk about the JSA and like certain characters like Jay Garrick, Alan Scott, Ted Grant, and along the way I would buy any JSA comic I could. And then in back in 2001, when I was a wee lad, I enjoyed watching the DC Comics animated universe shows such as Justice League, Static Shock, Teen Titans, and there's an episode called Legends, who that was written by Andrew Kreisberg of Flash, Arrow, that fame, and of now canceled fame. It was basically the during a fight with Lex Luthor, Wally, Martian Manhunter, Hawkgirl, and John Stewart got sent to an alternate or parallel universe or parallel dimension, and they encountered characters that John Stewart read about as a kid. And it was many years later that I found out that they were this was the JSA or the Justice Society of America, but Paul Levitz didn't want them to be used for some reason.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the reason was too. Like they would be seen as like devalued or something like that, or maybe
Well,
I
the
don't know,
episode
mocked or something. I can't remember.
I don't know. Paul Levitz, I think he may have been writing the JSA I think he was also writing the JSA book at the time.
That sounds right because it would have been what end of.
It was after the Goyer Johns Robinson run, but I did manage to track down a. I'm not sure if it was a mock up, like a fan made thing, where instead of Tom Turbine or Black Siren, it's Alan Scott, Jay Garrick, like it's the icons. And when I officially started like reading comics actively back in 2011, the Justice Society of America book got canceled in I believe August when I was recovering from my spinal surgery, and it wasn't until 2013 or 2012 or 2013 when the Earth 2 book came out that James Robinson was writing.
Oh,
I was reading that. I was really into it. Then he left the book and was replaced by Tom Taylor, which like I love both those creators, but James Robinson has a more genuine take on those characters.
yeah, Robinson. I can't say I've read a lot of his stuff at all, but I feel like anytime he touches on older characters, more classic characters, he gives me a very Darwin Cook vibe, in that he has a way of writing them in a way that more modern writers don't. He respects them a hell of a lot and seems to know what made them successful in the first place, but is able to modernize them in a way to get through to new readers.
Yeah, it's a shame that the JSA doesn't. The Earth 2 Society book ended. Earth 2 went along from 2012, 2013 to after Convergence, which is really the the Earth 2 event. Then came Earth 2 Society, and since that book ended, there's been no JSA mention up until recently with Death Metal.
Yeah, so someone who's not reading current stuff, kind of, can you give me an idea of how that all goes?
Okay, so did you read Dark Knight's Metal?
No, I haven't read like anything like Dark Knight related at all, Dark Knighted related at all. I kind of have an idea of what it is, but
Okay, so Scott Snyder, who is arguably the greatest, or he's now in the upper echelon of Batman writers,
I would agree with that.
and Greg Capullo basically wanted to do have more, sick, like metal reference, like a more metal feel for comics than, and I was actually doing the metal hand thing,
Uh huh.
which did not feel.
Devil horns.
Yeah, I was throwing up the horns. So I think it was last week, or the last episode, where I mentioned the Batman Who Laughs and the Grim Knight.
Except for the people who are listening to this will actually be the next episode.
Oh,
Or
my
actually, no,
apologies.
2 weeks. In 2 weeks, or 2 episodes, since I guess this is going to be bi-weekly. We're recording this all out of order. So episode 5.
Yeah. So
So yeah, how's this bring in the Justice Society?
well, they've had sort of scattered stuff since Rebirth. There was a Batman Flash crossover called The Button, which
Mm-hmm.
which was going to be a detective story focusing on the comedian's Button from Watchmen, which found its way into DC, or the current Rebirth timeline. And during the Button storyline, Jay Garrick did the way Wally was appearing out of the Speed Force, or to people who knew him, or in this case forgot about him. Jay Garrick was doing a similar thing, and he got out and was, as quickly as he came back, he quickly left. And then during Doomsday Clock, Johnny Thunder, who's got to be way too old for this blank, he he has memories of the JSA. He's trying to summon his lightning bolt, and they just treat him like he's a delusional old man. The end with Doomsday Clock, I take it you didn't read that as well. I don't blame you.
Nope, not yet.
Well, the whole point of, or the whole plot of Doomsday Clock is Doctor Manhattan at the end of you remember the end of Watchmen, the comic,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
where Doctor Manhattan's path goes after, where it seemingly goes after that ending.
Mm-hmm.
He decides to basically test stuff in the DC universe. So basically, he's been responsible for all the reboots. Doomsday Clock depicted as the name of the miniseries it says, a dystopic, dark future of the DC universe, which we see way too much and never actually comes to fruition. The reason that he mentions that he goes over the different changes to Superman's secret, his origin, and he mentions the big change in the future depicted in Doomsday Clock is having Alan Scott die in the train crash and never find the power battery or the Star Heart.
Oh. Huh.
So at the end of Doomsday Clock, the JSA are reborn, they're restored, even though they don't say they're restored until Dark Knight's Metal, not Dark Knight's Metal, Death Metal, which opens with Sergeant Rock, who is a character from the 40s, and there's a secret hero memorial site, or a hero, it feels like it's more along the lines of a tomb where every hero is buried.
Hmm.
Like and panels, you see the JSA version of Black Canary, Don Hall, Dove, and the password to enter. Like Wonder Woman is leading a few people, Swamp Thing, and someone else, and she's talking about it, she doesn't like the guys there, or the people that are guarding it, because in Death Metal, the world has been taken over by all types of different Batmen and Perpetua. So I'm reading Death Metal issue 1, I want to say, and there's a speech bubble that's coming from this off panel, what's the password, and Wonder Woman goes, I think it was Mahuncle,
Uh-huh.
and it's one of those. It's one of the reveals where it's from the boots up, or from the boots, and like the next page you'll get like a big splash page, and it's actually Mahuncle, and there is Jay Garrick, Alan Scott, and Ted Grant, the JSA Trinity, and Batman is raising an army of the dead with with the Black Lantern ring, and like he's resurrected Jonah Hex. But that's enough about death metal. The whole and like my feelings with my love of the JSA is the general feeling when you're reading a JSA book, and that there won't be any it's a PG book, or just even G rated book. Like nothing bad happens, or if something bad does happen, it won't be like that for long. So, or I'll get in more. I'll talk more about it when we go over their impact.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, so I had looked up that thing about having to use the Justice Guild in that Justice League animated show, and I found it a little interview thing with Bruce Timm, and I'll just take out the part where he mentions why he couldn't use the name. So, according to Bruce Timm, this is what he says. However, DC Comics publisher Paul Levitz had some concerns with the story. He felt the story as written disrespected the JSA and was overall an inappropriate use of the characters. We pleaded our case, but we could clearly see his point too. The DC guys have spent a lot of time and effort in revitalizing the JSA recently, to the point here it's now one of their most popular titles. We certainly didn't want it to seem as if we were saying the JSA was a joke. No disrespect was intended on our end, quite the opposite. We wanted the story to be a love letter to the original JSA and a bittersweet nod to simpler times. However, Paul saw our point and quickly agreed to a compromise. We changed the names and designs just enough to make them not quite the JSA, but still get the point across. They're now the superheroes of Earth 2.5, if you will, kind of similar to what Alan Moore was doing in his Supreme run. So that would be why they were called the Justice Guild as opposed to the Justice Society.
Yeah, I just looked up on YouTube trying to find the clip I was mentioning of a concept clip. All I'm getting is Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, or the Justice League movie from 2017.
Yeah, I can't tell you, like, as I've been going through trying to find notes, how difficult it is trying to wade through all the more current stuff, especially with the next episode. And
Oh,
of
yeah.
it, yeah, it was bringing me up to the movie instead of like anything involving the comic. So that was almost impossible to find anything on. But we'll get there next week. So yeah, with that, I guess let me tell you about a brief little introduction with the Justice Society. I'll try and be quick. So my introduction with the Justice Society was in Zero Hour, where they were basically killed off pretty immediately by Extant.
AKA Hank Hall.
Hank Hall, yeah, after
Hawk.
his Monarch run. So yeah, they were basically killed off to show the power of Extant, who, was then quickly wiped out by Parallax. And then shortly afterwards, I saw Jay Garrick in an issue of Superman, where Superman was trying to help basically eliminate all these tornadoes that were coming down in Kansas. And Jay Garrick was there to help. And really, outside of that, it was Jeff Johns' run. Oh man, when was it? It was before Infinite Crisis, right? It was right there.
Well, there were two JSA runs from there was one that began with the JLA run, both in 1999,
Mm-hmm.
where it was David Goyer, James Robinson, and Jeff Johns. Jeff Johns and James Robinson would keep the book would keep going. James Robinson eventually left. David Goyer obviously left, but there was a period where Jeff Johns was writing the JSA, the Teen Titans, and we won't get to it on this episode because the character hasn't debuted, but Courtney Whitmore,
Mm-hmm.
aka Stargirl, was created by Jeff Johns after his sister tragically died.
Yeah.
And which Stargirl has gone on to become a pretty iconic character to the point where there's a show created based on her exploits. And turns out Jeff Johns isn't just it's not just Jeff Johns working on that show. James Robinson is working on that show too.
Oh,
So,
is he? That's cool.
yes, it just Josh can attest to this every Monday for the past couple 2-3 months. At a certain time of day, I would just be posting stuff in the VG chat, just losing my mind over just these little drops of lore of the DC universe. and I don't know what I'm going to do, how I'm going to survive until next year.
All right, and with that, let's go ahead and get into the origin since we've been at it for quite a while already. So yeah, let's talk about how this book came to be. So All-Star Comics, when it started out, it was books that were out at the time. It was published by both All American Publications and National Comics, two companies that would eventually merge to become DC in the future in 1944. And then the first All-Star Comics issue featured solo stories containing characters like Flash, Hawkman, Spectre, and more, pulled from other comics such as All American Comics and More Fun Comics.
Oh, can I just mention something? I know we're going to get to it when we get to the story.
Sure.
I did not expect them, or I know that there was something I forgot to mention. The Flash current run by Josh Williamson, his year one story for the Flash has him reading the Jay Garrick comics,
Does it?
which was Barry's part of Barry's origin from the 60s or from the late 50s when the JSA went away. And I have pretty close to me right now, like physically close, Flash of Two Worlds, which was the first appearance of the JSA character in quite a while. So
Nice. All right. So for how they decided to come up with what characters would be in the book, they had basically put out a call to different fans to see like who they would like to see in a different book. World's Finest at the time was something that was just taking off, and it was seen as like a best of collection of other characters in other books. So while Superman and Batman had extended out of both Action Comics and Detective Comics into their own solo books, they would also occasionally cross over with World's Finest, but it would also have other characters that weren't popular enough to have their own solo series. And so, since that was doing such a great job for them, DC, we'll just say DC, DC at the time decided to basically put out another book that did so. And so that's when they would start asking fans who else they would like to see in a different book. And then they kind of had their own opinions on who would fit in as well. And so that's how they decided on the lineup for All Star Comics, and that would kind of change here and there throughout, but for the most part, it stayed mostly the same. And so All Star Comics 3, which I had a few different dates given to me as to when it released. I put down November 22nd of 1940, but that might be something we bring up later. I saw a date in December. I saw just winter. And so I don't really know. We'll just say the tail end of 1940. And so, as I mentioned, that instead of stories featuring just one superhero or sidekick, this started stories involving a team of superheroes, more specifically the Justice Society of America, in a greatest hits type approach. While it would originally start out as something smaller in scope with heroes coming together to tell solo stories, it would eventually be dropped to where they would have full-blown issues dedicated to their team up, mostly starting in 1947. And Gardner Fox, since he was attributed to a lot of the creation of the characters that were being used, such as Flash, Hawkman, Dr. Fate, Sandman, Sheldon Mayer had come to him and suggested that he would be the writer for it, since he was the creator of so many of them, and that he would be the best person to write the story of their full-blown team up. And
so
Gardner,
actually, I have two things to say about this.
sure.
Said episode of Justice League Legends was a tribute to either to or in memory of Gardner Fox.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a sort of a bittersweet one. Obviously, Gardner Fox didn't create all. There's an artist who created the character, created each character with Gardner Fox.
Yeah.
Like with Jay Garrick, it was Gardner Fox and Harry Lampert. Sandman, it was Gardner Fox and Burt Christman. And Burt Christman, or when the U.S. entered World War II, a bunch of DC guys joined the fight. Burt Christman was a pilot, and he was one of the unfortunate souls to not come back from the war. He was shot down over Burma.
Jeez, this episode is just going to be a real downer in general. No more down.
No, It won't be because I have yet. I'm waiting. I'm just waiting for the right time to bring up the Smallville episode.
So yeah, the final thing I have on the origins is kind of what we already discussed. Of this being the first team book and nothing being able to, a lot of stuff that came after it has this to cling to as the setting the stage of how these would work. And Gardner Fox, as I'm sure you're aware, and many people, that he would go on and continue to make a lot of content for comics in the future. And I'm sure we'll be talking about many, many more of his doings in the future as well. And so let's finally get into the story of All Star Comics number 3. So, Alan, I quickly realized that I do not like Johnny Thunderbolt with these first few pages of this book.
Yeah, just the episode, just the legend or the Legends episode. I'm pretty sure that should I spoil the like what
I mean,
happens?
we don't need a full blown recap of the story, but
Well, let's just say that, or let me just say that things ended nuclearly, and the Justice Guild or Justice Society were all illusions, sort of.
yeah, I'm going to have to go back and rewatch the episode. I don't really remember.
It is really good. The Johnny Thunderbolt like kid turns out to be the enemy of the episode, like the villain of the antagonist of the episode. Which when I was reading it, I was like, yeah, I can see why Andrew Kreisberg did this.
He's so damn unlikable in this story. He's God. I guess okay, so let's kind of talk about what he does. So the issue starts with him being disappointed being left out of the meeting that the Justice Society is holding. I have no idea what he had done before this to being warranted of a member. I kind of wish that was explained a little bit in a way. Yeah, he's just kind of whining, and then he accidentally channels the Thunderbolt, which gives him wish granting powers for an hour after he says "say you," which they will constantly like force in like as awkwardly as they can just to kind of keep the story going in places. And then he's swept away to where the meeting is being held. If I remember right, he joins Dr. Fate in the air, who apparently has no problem with this dude just randomly showing up beside him. And then they all fly to the meeting and introduce themselves. And this is where we see Dr. Fate, Sandman, Flash, Green Lantern, Hawkman, Spectre, the Atom, and Hourman.
Hourman, more like Drug Man.
Since that's the only way he can do stuff.
Yeah, Miraclo. Makes you strong for an hour.
There's another drug that does that too. Ha ha
ha. We are not sponsored by them. We cannot say this.
So the first thing that Johnny does there is, the Flash joins the party and he basically says, hey, cool down, Mr. Flash. You ain't so hot, which I guess makes Flash cold to where he stops and starts shivering. Yeah. And then he starts saying stuff for like a comedy effect, like making his head smaller, making their dinner disappear and reappear.
Did you laugh or just cringe when they got to the hotel where I saw that the hotel where the Justice Society meeting is being held and everyone's knocked out and it was because Sandman used his gun. And
it's like, how do you know the Sandman's been here? Well, everyone's asleep, obviously.
Yeah, like
why? I don't know, but
the entire. Did you ever see the episode of South Park with the gingers?
Yes.
Where the hotel rep kept coming in to see, like, checking in, like, how are you having, like, everything good? I was wishing that would happen, even though that type of thing wouldn't happen because it was 80 years ago.
I hate Johnny so much. I immediately wanted this character to disappear after reading these first few pages.
If you do not like him, then I think you would enjoy Doomsday Clock because it is him just being verbally assaulted and possibly physically assaulted, if I remember correctly. So
So yeah, it's also about here that they reveal that supposed to be a few other characters in the JSA as well.
yeah,
Inclu-
they mentioned. I think it's Johnny who mentions weren't Batman, Superman, and Robin or Wonder Woman supposed to be here, and they give an answer saying that, well, with us here, someone has to keep busy,
yep.
which that's the equivalent of Cleveland, the Cleveland show happening, and hoping to see Quagmire for some reason.
Mm-hmm. It's absurd. There's so much absurdity in these early comics, and it's just one of those things you just have to shake your head and just.
Hey, it was a simpler time.
It was because I'm looking at this. I'm like, I don't know if my 8-year-old really liked these books.
Yeah, there's no explosions, there's no new metal.
It's just like a lot of I don't even want to call it bad humor. It's just kind of like dumb humor in a way. Uh, I don't know. Like I'm reading this, I'm like, I'm glad I didn't grow up with this kind of comics, but at the same time,
Oh man, if I grew up and this was if this was the highlight of my week, oh, I'd be one happy kid. And I'm not being ironic. I'm being 100% serious.
like you want to get into like the Batman, show from the '60s. Like that's the kind of humor I will take. I don't know that. Maybe it's just Johnny. Maybe it's just the fact that I hate Johnny so much
Yeah, and
in this
also
book.
I mean, considering this is like the first like proper team book, and it's not necessarily a proper team book,
hmm
and it takes a little while to get there.
Yeah, and as much as I hate Johnny, he's kind of the reason like it all kind of starts. The whole book exists in the first place, I guess, because his whole idea is great. Now that we're all sitting down to eat, because all these strangers, just I don't want to say strangers, they're all heroes. Don't mind me, the stranger, just randomly showing up and eating with all of them. But he gives them the idea that like we should all tell a story about our greatest adventures, so we all know each other very well. And so that's kind of how the whole issue goes, as each character tells like a story from their past that yeah basically still makes this kind of a like
Anthology.
individual book, anthology book, yeah, but at the end they basically officially become a team. But yeah, let's
Yeah,
get into the
I was gonna say that. Did you read the first, I think 5 6 issues of the New 52 Justice League?
Justice League,
Yeah, where the Dark Side.
like the dark, yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you can see where, like, just comparing the two. This, which is very modest, very of the time, and Justice League or New 52 Justice League summer blockbuster,
Mm-hmm.
which this could be controversial, but I still think that it looks just as good all those years, like nearly almost 10 years later.
Yeah, I mean, I really like that Justice League story. It was a good way to introduce everybody together and with a big threat. Yeah, I need to go back and reread it. It's been a while.
Yeah, I wish I did. Like I have so many, almost all of the volumes, and but on a different like Comixology account,
Mhm.
and like I bought the box set of like the first 6 volumes, and I can't find them anymore.
Jeez.
It feels like my world is collapsing in on itself.
Well, maybe you'll find that treasure the same
N-
way that the Flash did in his first story here.
Nice segue.
Terrible. All right, so let me just kind of summarize the Flash he has, which to me was the least interest. Well, yeah. I'll just say I found it the least interesting. It's told.
Also, some of the stuff that happens shouldn't work. Like I'll just wait till I'll point out the stuff that shouldn't work.
Okay. So yeah, the Flash's tale involves a sunken treasure. They learn about a man by the name of Rogers from his daughter, who is looking for a sunken ship, but some other men have been giving him trouble. And then before checking out the city, the Flash decides to stop by and see if everything is going okay with Rogers. So he goes all the way from New York to Panama, and they give the exact time of 16 minutes and then takes a dive to find the boat. He locates it, but is attacked by a target shark, who he quickly spins out of control, leaving the shark to think to himself, Mama, help, Mama.
Yeah,
Ugh.
that that was just wrong.
There's
I mean,
Yeah, it's just so goofy, like giving the shark a voice, making it a child, basically.
What the thing is, when I was reading this earlier, I had to I had to remind myself that Aquaman had not that did not exist yet, because I thought it was stupid. Me thought, like, I saw a silhouette in the water.
Oh, uh
I was like, oh, it's Aquaman, and I'm like, wait, no, 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 he hasn't been invented yet, or he hasn't been
huh.
created yet. I mean, I think it was it Gardner Fox who created Aquaman,
I don't know.
because I know he was responsible for a bunch of Silver Age characters too.
Yeah. It says created by Paul Norris and Moore Rising.
Oh yeah, more Weisinger. Yeah, we have to do an episode on him. We
Yeah.
have to.
So yeah, it looks like Aquaman was created a year later, 1941. So back to after Flash's little attack on the shark. He then stops at the boat of the men giving Rogers trouble, called the Nancy K, and sabotages the gear that they have on hand. He
Okay,
then
this shouldn't work because he's underwater, and I mean, unless like there's just so much wrong here.
so yeah, from there he visits Rogers and informs where the boat is, since he was able to locate it underneath. Uh, Sadly, Rogers' boat won't run, so Flash decides to act as the propeller and get the boat moving, to the chagrin of all the men looking to get the treasure first. As Rogers works to get the treasure, Flash waits for the Nancy K to arrive and then steals their diving equipment. But Burly Billy will not have any of that.
God, I love the '40s nicknames.
God, Alan, I'm telling you, as I go over some of these early that we're going to be talking about in the future, every name is fantastic. I just got through doing some of the action, or not action, All Stars comic number 8, and there are some great names there. There are some great names there. But Burly Billy is this one. So he
He sounds like he should, but he sounds like he belongs in a Capcom beat 'em up game, like as a boss. Or no,
Like
he sounds like he belongs in Street Fighter.
I was thinking like Double Dragon.
Yeah.
So yeah, Burly Billy threatens to fill the Flash with lead, but Flash splits back to Rogers, who locates the treasure and gives him all the diamonds he stole from K. The Nancy K crew come back around with some guns, but Flash dives in the water and turns the boat around and moves it into the Arctic.
Yeah, like did they die? Did they have to go cannibal?
Yeah, they don't actually like flashback at all to say that he took him
We
back or anything.
Yeah, we didn't get Flash, like we didn't get Jay Garrick saying. I mean, they're still alive, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he went from the Panama all the way up to the Arctic. I can't imagine they were like planned to do that whatsoever. So, not
I
really
mean,
sure if they got out. They're not.
it would be great. A great idea was if they just took these characters, not Flash, not the JSA characters, the characters from the Nancy K crew, have them pull a Captain America, have them get because Flash moved them to the Arctic from Panama so fast, they were frozen, and they come back looking for the Flash, run into Barry Allen, and try to take him out. There, I showed a comic.
There we go. The Nancy K killers or something. I don't know. It's a great origin story.
The Nancy K crew. The K is for killing.
So yeah, it looks like so that part finishes off with Flash helping Rogers bring up all the gold, and then meeting up with Rogers' daughter to tell him all the good news. Tell him the good news.
And I'm glad that Joan has a presence in this
Mm-hmm.
story, even if it's just a brief presence. Like Earth 2 issue 1, when like young Jay Garrick gets broken up with by Joan, who says she's going off to college. And I initially thought DC doesn't want heroes to have relationships with anyone, but not even on a different Earth.
Yeah, like Jay and Joan, they're one of those I like always just kind of figure are going to be married no matter what.
Yeah, even on the Flash series, they had an episode with Jay and Joan. Even Young Justice, they have Jay, Joan, Barry, Iris, Bart, Wally for a brief time. But spoilers. But I won't say who, but spoilers.
So next up is Hawkman. And first thing I gotta mention is that his wings. To me, they look more like hair.
Yeah.
It's it's weird. Like they don't look wing. I don't know. I'm looking specifically at the page where like he starts telling his story and he's standing up next to a table, and just the wings take up like more than a quarter of the panel, and it just looks like it's flowing locks from the back of his from the back of his body. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird looking to me. But anyway, yeah, as Carter Hall, he learns about some from Shira Sanders. As he escorts her home, she is attacked by a man hiding in some bushes, but Carter takes him out. He threatens Shira to not head to the island of Krakatoa, I don't know, and learn about Mazda. I don't know. The thing I hate about comics is when you come across a name you don't know, how to, like heavily go searching for it. There's a lot of that in this story. So I'm going to pronounce it Mazda. Mazda, controller of fire ghosts. And so, knowing that she would still visit the island, Carter changes into Hawkman and travels to Krakatoa as well. Once there, he notices something happening with the volcano. He sees men enveloped with fire, so called fire ghosts, so he goes to warn her about it. The next day, the two of them go investigate the volcano, only to be attacked by the fire ghosts. They are able to overwhelm Hawkman and take the two of them to their leader, Mazda. Mazda reveals his plans to use his force generator to turn the volcanic steam into power, enough power to destroy the world. So he orders his ghost to toss Hawkman and Shiera into the volcano, but Hawkman escapes his bindings and saves them both. Hawkman destroys the machine and goes after Mazda after taking out some of the ghosts. And as Mazda leaps towards Hawkman, Hawkman uses the momentum to fall backwards and sling Mazda over him right into the volcano. And then, funnily enough, the man who tried to kill Shara back at her home is there, but he's on the brink of death. So this is how he just goes on a purge about the story of Mazda, the scientist invented the force generator to become a world power. And the fire ghosts were nothing more than men with special suits that he invented to prevent fire penetration. And then the man dies and they go home. It's just such a sudden ending. First of all, I'm amazed that the man who was very clearly dying was able to fly to this island and find them and
Just drop dead.
drop dead after detailing the entire story of who this person was on the island.
Uh, since I won't have a better time to say it. Do you know of the Ed Boon Hawkman story?
I feel like I should. I want to say I do remember hearing it, but I can't remember what it is.
Okay, so it's basically why Hawkman will never be in an Injustice game. So he was going through some old comics he had, and no, and it was the video was a giant bomb thing, like it was one of their videos, and it's like the place the Justice League was. I forgot where it was, but it was near Midway City. There was danger, like or people were in danger, and Hawkman goes, "Risk my life for Midway? Never." And Ed Boon said from that point on, he will never be in one of my games.
Fair enough. That's great.
Yeah, and I'll just bring up a quick bit from the Smallville Absolute Justice episode, just behind the scenes stuff. Tom Welling, who played Clark Kent, aka Superman, for all those 10 years, he's not a big comic book guy. He thought Hawkman was a character created for the show, like not a real character. And Michael Shanks, who portrayed Hawkman on Smallville, he didn't know either.
Great.
And yeah, and I would get angry at this, but Welling is my Superman, and Michael Shanks is my Daniel Jackson. So there's no one I can't get mad at anyone on this part. It's just one of those things where it's one
I'll
of those
be
things.
more sorry, go ahead.
It's one of those things where I could educate them, but I come off sounding like a prick.
Yeah, I mean that just seems like something the creators should have given them.
Well, that's the thing. They did not even know that Annette O'Toole was in
Oh
a Superman
no.
film.
They didn't
Like,
know?
yeah, no, they didn't know. Like, there's something one of like an old comic book when I first got into comic books in 2011. I went to a local shop, which shut down about 6-7 years ago, and it's a place I worked for a bit. I brought it up, and it was either he brought it up or I brought it up, and my brother was with me, and It's just one of the things where just like, how could they not know this? They're working on a Superman series. They in the look up in the sky documentary. Another tool mentions that they responded with like, "Oh, you must." Their initial response was that she just knew a lot about Superman, and then she said that she was in Superman 3, and yeah, they had no idea, and they would go and 2-3 years later they would go on to write Spider-Man 2 before there was, and this was all before there was any DCU or DCEU or Marvel MCU.
Okay, so back on topic. The Spectre is the next one to show up here as he tells his story about a case of something that occurs during this time. There are men who are being murdered, and so Jim Corrigan, who is the Spectre, tries to figure out what's going on. And as he's doing so, a bronze statue attacks him. Before hitting the wall, he dematerializes through it and then returns back as the Spectre. And then, as the monster is out to claim another life, the Spectre stops him. The monster addresses the Spectre as the being from the dark side of the moon, and he has returned hungry for death. He proposes a contest with the Spectre, and that whoever returns the red moonstone of Yzgartl, it's Yzgartyl, pronounce that however you like, the red stone to Earth, wins and does what they want, and the other must leave Earth. And so Spectre, of course, agrees to this, and they start zooming out towards the object in space. Cheats and forces the Spectre off course with the dimension current. Fortunately, the Spectre grabs a passing meteor, which gives him the lead again. Calls out to a henchman for assistance, and just as Spectre is about to grab the red stone, he's attacked by this giant dragon. Spectre is able to defeat it with ends up capturing the stone while he's doing that. And so they all speed back towards Earth, and Spectre is able to make drop the stone by making it incredibly hot. And Spectre wins the contest, but refuses to leave as they stand atop the Earth. So, okay, so the art here kind of throws me for a loop. So here they're both standing on top of the planet, and
I was thrown off by that one too.
And then the next panel, they're both just normal size, and they're trees at each other. And so, yeah, Spectre ends up forcing the statue back to where it originally was, out of the statue and into the redstone before he tosses it out into space, putting an end to the full moon murders. Which, as crazy as this story was, I really liked it. It may have been my favorite of all the ones told. Yeah, just like a big cosmic race, basically.
Okay, I'm looking. The artist Everett E. Hibbard, who is no longer with us, albeit he had a good life. He was 89 years old. He was also a writer.
Huh.
He worked on All American Comics, and he worked on All Star Comics. He worked on one we'll cover soon in a few episodes. But he was the primary artist on this book even before the JSA, the first appearance of the JSA.
Huh.
And he was also he was also artist on Flash Comics, so there's some synergy there.
Cool.
But yeah, that image of them both standing on the Earth itself as if they're gargantuan giants is terrifying.
Yeah. So the next one that takes place involves Our Man. So Rex Tyler decides to dress up as Our Man to attend a costume request of his boss, who wants Rex to take his niece, Regina. The ball will be held at a location showcasing the Durant Diamond Collection. And then once there, the two of them notice that other Our Men start showing up at the ball too. And this makes Rex suspicious when one of them says, "You know what the boss said about bringing women? Ditch her before we start to work."
They confuse him with someone named Billy.
Yeah. They just mistake him for another one of the crook Our Men, which, is very convenient for the story purposes. And so Rex is able to piece it together that the other Our Men are planning a diamond and then putting the blame on Our Man himself. He also takes some Mariclo, and, about that time, the crooks decide to make their move and take out two policemen guarding the diamonds. And so the real Our Man jumps in to stop them, but is overpowered by the numbers and knocked out. The real Our Man, when he comes to, Mr. Durant, the owner of the diamonds, mistakes him for one of the crooks and tells the cops to get him. But our man is able to escape out the window and hides in Durant's study, where he locates some papers and a map of the house. He is able to escape the house by disguising as a knocked out policeman and catches the thieves leaving on a boat towards Melba Island. Obviously, he follows them, and as he investigates, they are able to catch sight of him, and they fire a shot which grazes his temple and knocks him out.
Yeah, like this is also he doesn't disguise himself as a knocked out policeman. He knocks out the policeman,
Yeah, he knocks it out and then steals his clothes.
and like he doesn't steal just one. He doesn't like leave one half naked and the other one with the uniform on. He takes both. He takes both.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if if that was just like a we have to do this so like if it was like a line of events like the chain together.
Yeah.
But-
And then he just ditches the clothes when he's outside and sees people leaving. Who none of them ditch their Hourman costume. And I've seen a lot of these. There seems to be like a running gag of them getting like hit from behind and being knocked out.
Yeah, they're getting warped.
So yeah, after being knocked out, the henchmen put him in a room, and then Durant shows up and is quickly taken out within 2 panels, and the police show up. Our man explains that the diamonds were fake, and the intent was for Durant to use the stolen diamonds as a means to collect insurance money from their theft. Which, yeah. And then between this and the next story, they have a quick little, I'm going to call it an intermission comedy moment, because
Yeah,
Red.
yeah. I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah. So in walks Red Tornado, and
AKA my uncle, AKA Abigail Hunkle.
yeah. So everyone thanks Red Tornado for showing up, though why Red Tornado showed up through a window, they don't really know, but invite him to tell a story anyways. And Johnny asks if he can take the cape, but Red Tornado gets a bit nervous and quickly departs. And apparently, while climbing through the window, the pants got caught and came completely off, as Flash shows everyone at the end of the page. Just a quick little hee at the expense of one of the characters.
Yeah, would that fly now?
I don't know.
I don't think it would.
So,
But when it comes to the Hourman story, it just felt very weird. And as much as I like Hourman, I'm still more of a Rex Mason guy because of his music. Like if you listen to that Arthur Korb Metamorpho song, you'll start dancing within like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of these stories is kind of a lot of ups and downs. Like some stories I really like Sandman's coming up. I liked, Spectres I liked, but Flash and Hourman I wasn't too crazy about. So yeah. Anyway, with Sandman, it begins with him as Wesley Dodds driving around with Diane Belmont when they discover a very large man. They say he's 20 feet tall, and the man falls dead, and Wesley locates a hypodermic needle in his pocket. This leads him to investigate. I can't talk, so I apologize. The next day, a newspaper boy spreads the news of a huge bag of human flesh found with man's bones inside of it, which is just like the most grotesque picture of what that would happen.
Yeah, like I mean, if I heard that on the ID channel, like Information Discovery, I'd be like, yeah, okay, yeah, I believe that. Because if you look at it, everything like all the, I think it was John Mulaney, a comedian. He wrote for SNL. He had a sitcom for a bit, and when I say for a bit, I mean like a real hot second. He made a joke saying that certain things are not allowed on TV, yet that they'll have Law and Order SVU saying the most disgusting, brutal stuff at like 3 p.m.
Yep. Yeah. So because they found this bag of human flesh with bones inside of it, Wesley dons his Sandman outfit to. I heard about a doctor that experimented on the pituitary gland. So he goes to Midtown Hospital and grabs the information after breaking into someone's office. And then as police come in, he's able to put them to sleep and dart out the window. And then he goes back to where the tall man was and finds some mud that Sandman recognizes West Shore. As they do, they run across a giant rat and a giant cat, both of which fall dead. Sandman leaves Diane at the car while he goes to a nearby house, and as he approaches, someone tries to shoot him, which raises. Then he busts into the cellar and finds a laboratory with a man tied to a table. The man wants to be freed. He wasn't strapped down, though, so I don't know what the problem was. And tells Sandman what the doctor is doing. He is injecting some sort of special formula into the pituitary glands of different people and animals and then letting them roam confused outside of the home. But unfortunately, the skin expands, but the bones don't, which explains the bags of flesh with bones. And so the doctor comes up from behind, but misses Sandman with a shot, and Sandman knocks him out and calls the police before returning to Diane. And that is the end of Sandman's story. Even though, Johnny Thunder has to have a quick little comment about, boy, wasn't that something? When, giants that died and shed their skin, I'll have nightmares tonight. Wow. I hate Johnny. I hate Johnny
That
so
should be the
much.
subtitle of this episode. Josh hates Johnny. As a take on Johnny Loves Chachi.
Oh, God. So, yeah, Dr. Fate's next. So it starts out with Inza. Is it Inza or is it, how do you pronounce his?
Inza? Yeah,
Inza, okay, that's what I thought.
That's correct.
Dr. Fate's companion. They visit a shop given by a mysterious woman. Upon opening the box at home, a bit of dust releases and she faints, a vision of an Egyptian priestess who tells her to go to Dr. Fate and warn him of danger at the coastal moors. So Dr. Fate flies them both there and remarks that her perfume reminds him of the scent-stealing shiver grease used by olden priests, because of course he could figure that out. Upon arriving, they are ambushed. They are able to escape, and Dr. Fate takes Inza back to her home to look into what brought her to him in the first place. And Dr. Fate determines a sorcerer is out to kill him to stop him from looking into ancient mysteries. Dr. Fate puts Inza to sleep for her protection. As he visits the antique shop, Inza found the box set. A creature from the depths of the Nile creeps along the floor, in which Dr. Fate is able to make disappear, which I thought was a quite humorous little thing that just this weird, it's not even like an octopus, it's just like this weird tentacle creature. It doesn't even look all that harmful.
I thought it was a dragon, or unless I'm thinking of a different story.
You might be thinking of it in the Spectre story, but yeah, Dr. Fate is like this little purple, like 8 tentacled thing with these. Literally, it's in 2 panels before it looks like turns it just, I don't know, just makes it disappear. I don't know. So yeah, as he leaves, he notices a radiance that he. Upon getting there, he finds a source. Dr. Fate with unicorns and witches. Dr. Fate tricks him by pretending to slip and makes his guard look down, and then is able to get the upper hand. Upon defeat, the evil sorcerer says how he tricked Inza into seeing an antique shop, but it was really a deserted store, and gave her the visions of the priestess. Dr. Fate doesn't want to deal with this again, so he simply dissolves the man using his magic, and then goes back to tell Inza it's over. Like, Dr. Fate, he doesn't take anything. He's
There's a reason that he's one of the in the Smallville Absolute Justice episode. Like the costumes are like Hawkman's costume is not that great. Martian Manhunter's his outfit is not that great. Stargirl's outfit is horrible. But Dr. Fate, that is some next level stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this entire like scene with this, like, first off, like green unicorns that attack him for one panel before not showing up again. Some witches that are trying to attack him with arrows, and then he beats the sorcerer the same way that Hawkman beats Mazda in the volcano by laying on his back and then flinging him over with his feet. So yeah, that's Dr. Fate. And then as Dr. Fate nudges him to tell a story. And they do something here where Johnny breaks the fourth wall. Johnny breaks the fourth wall and says, "Ah, shucks. So the editors have written a story about something that happened. It's on the next 2 pages. After that, we'll hear from the Atom." And so the next 2 pages are just text with
I skipped this because I thought it was just an ad. Like I was like, is it really?
I mean, it looks like a clipping from a newspaper.
Yeah, like, and when as someone who's read comics for quite a while, when you see that, your natural instinct is to just skip it.
I was tempted, especially because of who was in it, but
Yeah, your arch enemy.
Didn't make me like him anymore. So let me get into what that story is about. So Johnny's story is visiting a woman named Daisy Darling who wants nothing to do with him because she is smart and knows that Johnny is a good-for-nothing piece of trash. She has asked him to leave her alone, and here we are. She is currently with another man, Edgar Edwell, when Johnny shows up. And Johnny, clearly jealous, pushes past Daisy to go look at Edgar. During this encounter, he accidentally says the words, "say you," giving him the wish-granting powers for an hour. Edgar puts a rose in his lapel and is complimented by Daisy, but Johnny wishes it was poison ivy. So as Edgar sniffs it, it turns to poison ivy and he immediately gets red in the nose and itchy. This
Oh God,
humiliates.
this is. Oh my God,
He's yeah.
I'm burning all my JSA books.
Like I'm trying not to swear, but I really want.
Actually, Josh, I don't know why I waited till now to tell you. In the do you remember when just the JLA book and JSA book ended
Uh-huh.
in 2005, 2006? I'm fairly certain that Johnny Thunder was killed sometime either before or after, and they brought in a new Johnny Thunder named Jakeem Thunder.
Oh, uh-huh. Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, he much better.
I liked him a lot more. I'm going to have to go find wherever Johnny gets killed. Maybe I just need to pull up the 0 hour where he gets gets killed there and frame it on.
Or you can just get the art and Photoshop yourself in.
I am extant, killing Johnny Thunder,
and just make it even more like incredulous by saying, "I am inevitable."
So let me continue with this terrible story about Johnny. Daisy is humiliated because of this and kicks both men out of the house. And Edgar ends up chasing Johnny away, and he needs practice with Daisy. So he sees a mannequin and has the idea to practice on that. And in doing so, insults the men who refuse to give him the mannequin. And then he inadvertently turns them into bags of wind, basically balloons, and they drift away. So Johnny just kills 2 men because he wants to practice on a mannequin to win Daisy back. So yeah, he then hears something coming from the mannequin, discovers that the men were kidnapping an heiress named Teresa Drew. I don't care. He did not know this. He killed 2 men unknowingly, that they were criminals. I don't care. I still hate Johnny. So this Miss Drew takes Johnny to meet her father, who gives Johnny the job of bodyguard for $100 a week. Johnny asks,
Josh, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but just check the chat. I put an image I think you'll like.
Yes. Yes.
It's like 90-plus-year-old Johnny in a home in the rain saying, "Where are you, Thunderbolt?"
Hopefully never to return because Johnny needs to just get old and die. So, yeah, he becomes a bodyguard to Teresa. And as he's escorting her everywhere, he runs into Daisy and Edgar, who quickly brush them off. Time skips forward, and Johnny and Teresa are surprised from behind from 2 men with guns. They lead them into a hotel on the 5th floor and discover it was Edgar who arranged it. Awkwardly working in a say you for plot purposes, Teresa starts blaming Johnny for this mess up, and Johnny basically says, say you shouldn't say things. So, I don't know, the way it's structured, it's like, say you shouldn't say things like that. It's just, I hate it. I hate this so much. The way he gets his powers, how awkwardly they fit it into the story. It's the fact that Johnny's just trash. I hate it.
And something else I think you'll enjoy in Stargirl, Johnny isn't even there. The only thing that's there is his pen, which
Good.
that's the only thing of Johnny Thunder that's there.
Good. The only thing of value from Johnny. So yes, using some of his wish-granting power, Johnny is able to get the men to toss their guns out the window. Then Johnny calls Edgar a snake, turning him into a snake, which frightens everyone, including Johnny. The henchmen and Johnny all run downstairs to the policeman. Johnny brings the police back up to the heiress, who is now sporting a black eye and a torn dress thanks to Daisy. Daisy had seen them captured and followed them all, and then when she noticed the guns drop out the window, she knew what room they were in, and then she called the police to save Johnny, who she now considers her boyfriend.
Yeah, none of this is okay.
No, it's awful. It's terrible.
This is Johnny Thunder an incel?
He kind of comes off that way. Like he just busts into this girl's room after she says and starts. Yeah, Moving on to the Atom, which this starts out a little weird because earlier in the book, Sandman says he's the only one with powers, and then Adam makes the exact same claim here, saying he's the only one without them. So I don't know if Gardner Fox forgot if he wrote these at two different points of time and forgot that he had already made claim to only one superhero being without superpowers, but it was just an odd little thing I ran across. So while on a class geology expedition, Al Pratt runs across someone who looks like the Brooklyn Murder Trust. He changes into the Atom after hearing their plan, follows them to the trucks carrying gold they plan on hijacking. They succeed in doing so, whereas the Atom tries to jump on the truck and fails miserably, falling down a hill. If it wasn't for his strong constitution, like a Dungeons and Dragons character, he would have died. Upon arriving at the government-held gold cache, the Brooklyn Murder Trust surprise the men there and take all of the gold. Meanwhile, the unconscious Adam is found by the woman he's interested, Mary James, who plans to unmask him when he comes to. He learns the reason she doesn't like Al Pratt is because he seems weak. And then as they talk, he sees the men coming and tells Mary James he leaps onto the truck again, successfully this time, and knocks out the men in the back while the men up front are completely unaware. And then as they arrive back at the boss, the Atom leaps out and takes them all on before splitting as the police arrive. And that is where the Atom story ends. And
I'm
then,
starting to lose my faith in Gardner Fox.
well, again, different time.
I know,
Still
but I'm saying this as someone who, like, I'm getting horror flashbacks to when I had to watch the JLA movie,
have.
like the live action one with Fat Martian Manhunter.
So let's see. I'm trying to think of how many people are left here. Okay, there's only one person left, but before they get to him, at the end of the story, a mail boy arrives at the confusion of Johnny Thunder and delivers a message to the Justice Society. The FBI chief in Washington wants someone from the Justice Society to visit them to discuss something important. Everyone elects the Flash to take a quick trip to find out what's going on while the rest finish up their meeting. And this meeting consists of Green Lantern telling his story. So, with Alan Scott's story, something weird is going on. Crime sprees are taking place, leading to someone claiming the city needs a new police commissioner. People are working behind the scenes to work their own political advantage, including tipping off the police to seeing the current police commissioner, Mason, getting a payoff. While Mason is held for trial, Lacey is replaced as police commissioner, and crimes immediately cease. Alan Scott finally comes into the picture to figure out what is going on after he changes into Green Lantern and visits a man named Pryor who writes for the paper and is a radio commentator. He gives him something to spread into the public about Mason being set up and has proof, which tips off the bad guys that Pryor needs to disappear before then. However, when they show up, Green Lantern is there to clean their clocks. Using his ring, he hypnotizes one of the men to tell him where the boss is. Alan, do you remember, is this something his ring can actually do?
Well, this is Alan Scott's ring is sort of like a, if I remember correctly, it's like a prototype version, like the Starheart.
Mm-hmm.
I know that this is one of those early things that I'm pretty sure this got stuff like this gets retconned out.
Yeah. I mean, Alan Scott's powers have always sort of confused me. I mean, I've never read a lot of Alan Scott stories, but I know it wasn't quite like Green Lantern type powers. I mean, eventually it would kind of with constructs and stuff, but I knew it wasn't entirely the same either. So yeah. Anyway, he uses it to hypnotize one of the men to tell him where. And then upon arrival, Green hit in the again by a man named Ape and is knocked out. And then when coming to, Green Lantern reveals he knows what is going on, and the man behind it is none other than Commissioner Lacey. Green Lantern escapes his bindings and lays out Ape with one punch, although Ape is noted to have a jaw of like cement, and heads back towards Pryor, whom Lacey left to take care of. Lacey interrupts the message Pryor was going to share and says he is under arrest. Green Lantern pops in and uses his ring, able to get Lacey to admit to everything he has done, including framing Mason live on air. And as Lacey is about to shoot everyone, Green Lantern uses his ring again to prevent the gun from firing. Green Lantern promptly leaves, and Lacey is basically left unattended there to, as far as I can tell, just walk out free. No police, nothing. Green Lantern just leaves, and that's the end.
So I think we should do an episode on Alan Scott because he is responsible for if he was never created, there would be a massive, like, he's one of those characters, that one of the legacy characters, and without him, there's a lot of DC would not be the company it is.
Nope.
And the creator of Alan Scott was actually not Gardner Fox; it was Martin Odell,
Hmm.
who like the inspiration came from Richard Wagner opera cycle, The Ring of the Nibelung,
Oh,
and sight of a trainman's green railway lantern.
yeah. I think we could definitely do an episode on him.
And and I'll tell you more about it later.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, here the book basically ends here. The Flash returns and gives the announcement that the FBI chief. Why that wasn't originally said in the letter, I don't know. Whatever. So they all agree that they will meet up the following week, and the end. And then there is a quick word from the editors saying that the book will now be bi-monthly instead of quarterly. And yeah, technically Action, or I keep saying Action Comics. All-Star Comics number 4 is the first like real team up. Yeah, that's basically what gets them to be a team in the first place is this issue. I have a couple notes about random trivia. Not a lot, but
It's better than nothing.
yeah. Again, some stuff you can find a ton on, some you can't.
And
This is
some
just
stuff,
one of those.
and some stuff is just straight up fake.
Yep. So the two things I have, I mean, one I just mentioned that All-Star 4 is the first real team up. All-Star Comics number 3 is the first published appearance of the JSA. The team has their history slightly revised in DC Special number 29 that came out in 1977. In that issue, the story of the untold origin of the Justice Society. It says they came together earlier. This is where that November 1940 date came up. That's when it said their first real adventure took place. Says it was during a battle with Valkyries summoned by the Spear of Destiny. Ultimately, Superman is the one who gives them the Society of, and this continuity is supported by America versus the Justice Society number 1. That confirms the JSA had their first meeting on November 22nd, 1940. And with that, that is all I have for this. Anything you want to add?
Yeah. Do you know how the book ended?
I do not. I did not look into All-Star Comics number 4.
Oh no, I'm talking about how the All-Star Comics series ended.
Oh, no, I do not.
Okay, so sales, it was in I think it was like 10, over a decade later from this point in time. Sales were going down, so they just changed the name to All-Star Western.
Oh, yeah, when they were starting to switch books for genre stuff and whatnot.
Well, yeah, and this is everything. What I'm about to say is everything I learned from the iFanboy episode of on the JSA. Because they were technically magazines, they had to, and they were mail ordered. They had to keep the numbering. So the last All-Star Comics issue, the last one was February of 1951, and the All-Star Comics ran for 57 issues, and All-Star Western debuted in 1951 with the 58th issue. And it's one of those things where, like, how was that even possible? And the JSA would go on to, like, unlike the Justice League, where there's always a Justice League book, no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
or from its creation to today, there's always a Justice League book. There was like a big stretch of time where there was no JSA book, and as I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the episode, in Flash issue 123, the multiverse was created, where Barry Allen met Jay Garrick, and like they would have every year they would have the annual crossover between the Earth 1 heroes and the Earth 2 heroes, and all this and as you mentioned, the JSA went away again in 0 Hour, but they ended up, if I remember correctly, they weren't killed, because no one ever dies in comics except for Uncle Ben.
And even then, they find ways to write around that.
They were, even though they were considered dead, they still appeared in James Robinson's Starman series, which I cannot recommend. I cannot recommend that series more enough, because the reverence for not only the JSA but like the villain. There's a character on there called the Shade,
Mm-hmm.
who James Robinson, and when the New 52 launched, he did a 12, I think, either 6 or 12 issue miniseries of the Shade, and the ending of season 1 of Stargirl had teased the debut of the Shade's arrival in Blue Valley. So, and I mean, I could literally go on for hours about the JSA.
Well, maybe in a future episode we could talk about GSA again. There's plenty of stuff about them, so I mean, if that's all you have, then we can go into the outro.
I do have one last thing.
Okay.
It's not a story or anything. It's more of a just like buy it if you buy it where you can find it. The 1990, I want to say 92. I want to say it was before 0 Hour. Yeah, 1992. Titled Just Society of America, written by Len Straczewski. I can't say his name. Straczewski, but most notably had art by Mike Paraback, who I'm gonna put a copy of the cover into the chat.
Oh yeah, that looks familiar.
He did a bunch of the animated series, like the Batman the animated series covers. He drew very similar to Darwin Cook, and he died of cancer. And it's not, as much as I hate 0 Hour without it. Ted Knight, who is the wielder of the cosmic staff, he and the rest of the JSA are too old to keep fighting, so he passes on the torch, figuratively, literally, to his sons. I'm forgetting. I'm gonna check now. His Jack Knight, who is the main protagonist of Starman, he ends up taking the mantle after David dies in the first issue, in the beginning of the first issue. So no need to spoiler that. So your homework this week: read at least issue 0 or 1 of Starman by James Robinson. You will have a whale of a time.
And with that, let's get into the outro. So like always, please rate, please review wherever you listen to this podcast. Any and all love is appreciated, but criticism, as long as it's ways to improve the show, is also valued. We want each podcast to improve, and without you telling us how to do so, we won't ever improve. So with that, if you don't want to leave a comment there, you can also follow us on Hyper Podcast at Hypertime Pod, and you can leave comments there as well. If you have any questions or topic suggestions and don't want to use the Twitter, you can also email us at hypertime2podcast@gmail.com. As for myself, you can follow me on Twitter at JMILLE99. And Alan, where can they follow you at?
They can follow me on Twitter at the Alamir, where I'm oftentimes deleting my tweet, or not discarding my draft tweets to the point where when I do post stuff, it's stuff I try not to make feel or sound or come off as political, or like I'll give an example. A recent tweet I posted was my pitch for a Star Wars version of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, but instead it's Where in the World is Batu Rem.
Oh, I saw that one, yeah.
And I'm not as active on it as I was when I was over the past few years on Instagram, Comics Boy. That's where you'll see me post panels like I wanted to put online on Instagram for some reason. Either that or pictures of my dog, which I may do because I got a good one of him looking like he was gonna kill me.
The world can never have enough dog pictures.
Yeah, and the thing is, he just barks. That's all he does. He just barks. But yeah, that's where they can find me.
Alrighty. Well, with that, we will bid you all adieu. We will see you further down the Hypertime, and take care, and goodbye.
I did, yeah.